Namaste. Assalamu alaikum. Shalom. Ni hao. Buenos dias. Ezeche. Buenas tardes. Aquaba. Berkman. What up, though? This is Cafe Melange. Week numero dos. Session numero dos. Location undisclosed. Uh, Yesterday, hier, là-bas, I introduce the topic of melange YouTubers, and I give a list of some melange YouTubers, past and present, future, um, and I communicate the intention of sharing favorites and least favorite videos of each one to give like just a review without whatever my opinion is, just experience, but just an insight. Anyways, ain't doing it today. For a number of reasons, particularly because I'm in a different environment and less controlled, and it's beneficial to be increasingly um, attentive and concentrated in sharing that particular type of verbiage, articulation, content. So today, what I'm going to do is give the update about the meeting with Baha'i, the online the phone call meeting with the Baha'i Brethren of the National Spiritual Assembly in the U.S. And the Public Affairs Division. I give background on it, so I ain't going to go into all the background, but basically the meeting goes well. We talk about a number of relevant, salient topics and issues and objectives. I abstain from making any specific solicitation um, other than just what we communicated before in terms of keeping the conversation going. I do share some ideas and get some feedback on those things that we're working on. And I share some insight, and it's a positive meeting. It goes for about an hour, and we conclude the meeting with the open channel of communication and the intention of actually doing some follow-up correspondence, and then having a follow-up talk at some time in the near future. So that's like the general gist of it. I talk about a few things in terms of the gifts that come from melange experience, as well as the needs. And actually, I have a, um, a sequence of things that I share um, along those lines. The gifts that we share, not just the relevance and like being recognized, but yo, you need to recognize this because we do things that benefit you, that you need. And so that's that. Then I talk about our needs, what we need, what's being neglected, um, and what the needs are, and then also what our objectives are as a community, and with increasing proficient self-determination or self-determinance, however you like it. I talk about effectively two things: United Nations and international recognition and access to the UN system, and we talk about that. Baha'is have an office at the UN, and have been doing work with the UN since before the UN was established. Um, and so I mentioned the interest of one. I've shared this before. Uh, Basic just recognition and statistics and a census of the melange diaspora through the UN Stats Division. That's a basic, just fundamental thing. In addition to that, through UNITAR, the United Nations Institute of Training and Research, putting together workshops, lectures, just basically building conversation about being melange, the relevance and the necessities, the objectives, and additionally within the melange experience. So, how you doing, bro? So that's again a basic thing. Um, then it goes further towards establishing a melange agency in the United Nations Department of Economic and Social Affairs, similar to the United Nations the United Nations Permanent Forum on Indigenous Issues, um, and that's in the UN system specifically. But then also connections with the UN member nations, particularly those with high populations and high percentages of melange brethren, and also uh, IGOs and NGOs that are dedicated towards the experience, the discipline, the practice of multiculturalism and diversity. So that's part of the international focus of Mélanger and some of the objectives along those lines. So I shared that with the Baha'i Brethren. They're supportive of that. And the office that I talk with, Public Affairs, is a different office. It's in a different city, a different metro area than the UN office of the Baha'i community. So um, there's the propensity of making a bridge between those two offices. I've already been in communication with the Baha'i office in the UN. There's been some positive response, but it's been a little bit lagging. I haven't followed up on it in the past few years, so and I mentioned that too. So there's the propensity of facilitating connections along those lines and furthering the discussion and the outreach and the work along those lines as well. So that's the one front, the UN and the international community. The other front is community building and building the institutional infrastructure in the Mélanger diaspora. And so I mentioned to the Baha'i Brethren in the meeting the notion of a community development corporation, but rather than necessarily a corporation, doing it increasingly as a co-op, cooperative, based on membership and building along those lines, accepting investment and partnership, particularly for larger projects, but having a foundational membership base and building along those lines, and that's a lot. But the thing is, in building institutions, and then all these things that I talk about in terms of projects, and additionally, are shared amongst others who are staff, who are volunteers, who are activists, and additionally who are sharing these tasks. Because at the moment, doing it dolo style is taxing. So that's the consideration, is building institutions. So at this point, what I'm focusing on is what I need to be doing in the next 5 minutes, single minutes, which is strengthening the discussion. So we have a discussion group. We have actually a few discussion groups that are all in the process. Cafe Mélanger, which is this joint right here. I'm doing study sessions on a daily basis throughout the week, Monday through Thursday, in addition to these Cafe Mélanger sessions. And then I have a session, a discussion group coming up in less than half an hour. So that is, we got some traffic. You hear me? You hear me? All right. So, yeah, they're doing some work where I sat a week ago, so now it's a little bit different. Anyways, uh, discussion groups. What I find is that what my strengths are studies and reaching out to people, and not necessarily project oriented at this moment, because um, the organization abstains from being there. I know how, I have a knowledge of how to do things, but it takes cooperation and participation. That it takes compensation for people to work, and additionally, and so um, that organizational establishment has yet to come to fruition, has yet to solidify. And so, in the meantime, it's a matter of me focusing on what my proficiencies are, and that is studies and continuing to do that, because there's resonance that comes with the studies. There's reaching back and outreach from other groups based upon those studies and what I share through the studies. And then also, uh, again, these discussion groups. So that's where my focus is, on these studies and on the discussion groups, and um, gradually building on the institutional front. When people communicate an interest, people do approach me about community building, and additionally, but have some different ideas about what is involved in that. For myself, community building is discipline based, and it's pluralistic and cooperative, um, and for it to be enduring. So that's what I focus on. Anyways, and I share these things with much of these things with the Baha'i Brethren in the call, and that's what I'm focusing on at this point, is the studies and discussion. So that's what I'm doing, and that's where I'm going, and that's a wrap for today. Namaste, assalamu alaikum, shalom, zaijian, adios, sempre, sempre na asmo, feel it with love and peace.